Hello, the doc is in, and welcome back to another video of Tokyo Revengers, chapter 256, Behind the Scenes. We're just to give a little recap. In the previous chapter, we basically have Takemichi and Kakucho confronting Sanzu, who is in the train preparing to hit everybody with the train. And the fight begins between Takemichi, Kakucho, and Sanzu, but for some reason Takemichi doesn't participate in the fight initially. Not a clue why. And so Kakucho and Sanzu go 1v1, and it seems, it's going back and forth. Kakucho's dodging the sword pretty well. He's getting hits off. But by the end of the chapter, he gets one slice across his chest. Once again, we didn't really get a clarification on how deep the cut was, how bad it is, or anything. We just know he probably got sliced that last time. And that's where the chapter ends. And so in the beginning of this chapter, we have the kind of like a show of like, okay, remember Kakucho got sliced, Takemichi's like, oh my god, and then Kakucho goes down. And so now we're into the new stuff. So immediately Takemichi, after seeing Kakucho got sliced, runs in and he tries to, he's checking on Kakucho. Now in my opinion, that's kind of dumb considering the guy with the sword is still there, but neither here nor there. So Takemichi goes there, he's like, oh, are you okay, whatever, and Kakucho's basically like, oh, it's not a deep cut. Now mind you, we don't actually get to see the cut. We only know that he said it's not bad. Now given if it was really bad, he probably wouldn't be able to even discuss this or do the other things he does in this chapter, but I'm just saying we haven't actually seen the cut, so this could be another Baji situation where they're like, nah, I'm chill, while they're like bleeding to death. So just something to think about. And Kakucho, obviously having more eyes on the mission rather than, worrying about people, he's like, hey, Sanzu's getting back on the train, and the train starts to move. The plane is in action. And so immediately Takemichi's like, well, I guess I gotta go over there. And we cut into Sanzu while he's on the train. He's basically like, I don't care about the conflict, I'm just not letting anybody get to the king. The king being Mikey. And we get a little flashback of him pretty much at some point, I assume after I guess maybe Toman disbanded or so. He basically goes to Mikey, bends the knee and says, I don't care what you do and how far into darkness you fall, and even if that ends up getting me killed, but I'm effectively going to devote my life to you because I'm your only friend. Now of course Mikey's probably in dark impulse mode, so he's probably not thinking about it too hard, but that's kind of weird for him to imply that he's your only friend when you have a whole gang of friends, specifically the top brass, especially the captains and vice captains are all pretty good friends of Mikey, at least they would consider themselves to be. So for Sanzu to suggest like, oh, I'm your only friend is crazy. Given Sanzu is pretty crazy, but neither here nor there. So we cut back into reality, and Sanzu's basically sitting there like, yep, plan's working. And Takemichi of course shows up and he's like, Sanzu! And then Takemichi tackles Sanzu, and basically Sanzu's like, well, you're gonna beat me up, but the train's already in motion, you're not gonna be able to stop my plan. And Takemichi basically says, well, I'm gonna stop your plan because you're crazy. And basically they're having a little bit of a struggle. Now mind you, Takemichi is around the same strength level as Kakucho at least, so it's kind of weird to suggest that he can't overpower Sanzu, who is implied to not actually be that strong, and that's part of the reason why he uses weapons rather than, just fighting hand to hand. But again, nonetheless, so Takemichi and Sanzu are having a little bit of back and forth, and Sanzu's like, how did you even find out about my plan in the first place anyway? I never told anybody that I planned on doing this. And Takemichi just straight up ignores it. I think he knows that that's like a valid question because he really shouldn't be able to figure that out just on his own. But he basically just ignores it. He's like, well, I'm still going to stop you no matter what. He just doesn't answer, just doesn't respond to that. And eventually it seems like Kakucho gets on the train as well, and he brings the wrench, alright? He said, I'm here for my get back. It gets on the temple. Sanzu gets that crack with the wrench on the head. I'm like, that's an injury, alright? That's not as bad as what Senju got, but that's pretty bad. He got hurt. And so after Kakucho cracks Sanzu on the head, he says, Takemichi, stop the train. And now obviously Takemichi also doesn't know anything really about trains, so he's like, shoot, which one's the brake? Now I feel like it'd be pretty obvious what the brake is, in my opinion. Like if you just look at it, I feel like the brake is a very essential part of any vehicle for that matter, and it's supposed to be pretty obvious which one it is for the most part in my mind, but nonetheless. So right, he's looking for the thingy, looking for the not the thingy, the brake, and while he's looking for a brake, he has a little bit of flash forward moment, and he sees that Sanzu just stabs him through the back, probably out of his stomach, and he's like, oh shoot, am I about to get stabbed? And so he decides to dodge, right? And so, you know, in terms of the scene just in and of itself, that's pretty cool. Like, dang, he really dodged that. But on the other hand, as Sanzu points out, I was in literally his blind spot. There is absolutely no way he should have been able to dodge that, especially considering that Takemichi was focusing on something completely different. For him to have dodged Sanzu's attack would require that he had literal spire senses, or, as Sanzu suggests, a time leaper. And the exact words Sanzu uses are you a time leaper too? Now, I'm gonna leave that for the discussion portion, but that's a question. That is a question to ask. And from there, I mean, Kakucho didn't really clock. I'm sure he's focused on, like, you know, making sure, you know, this plane goes off without a hitch. And so he tackles Sanzu off the train. I don't know if he falls with him. I forget. We'll see in the next panels. But Sanzu's sent flying, and Takemichi's still on train, and so he's still trying to stop this thing. And Sanzu's now been thrown off, and Kakucho does stay on the train. I thought he might have fallen off too, but he doesn't. So, with that being said, at this point, the main mission is we gotta stop this train, and we gotta stop it soon. And it seems like it's still in the distance a little bit, but obviously the train's gonna gain motion and everything, or gain momentum and everything. So they don't really have that much time. And I imagine Sanzu, once he figured out how to get the train moving, just like full throttle. So yeah, that's pretty much it for chapter. Pretty good chapter, and I would say in and of itself is probably like a 7 or 8, but that one question from Sanzu brings this chapter up to like a 9.5, because whoa, there are some suggestions there. Now my immediate reaction to seeing that were, does that mean Sanzu's the time leaper? Because he says 2, right? But technically that doesn't directly mean that he's time leaper. It could just mean he knows who the other time leaper is. Now, given Sanzu's crazy, so it is possible that he could be a time leaper, and maybe he's setting things up in a particular way so that then Mikey becomes evil. And so in the same way that Takemichi's maybe working always to save all his friends, maybe Sanzu's working to always turn Mikey as evil as possible. Possibly. But we don't really know that for sure, to be fair. And as I said before, just a second ago, even though my initial reaction was to say, oh, Sanzu must be the other time leaper, it is also possible that he just knows who the other time leaper is. He figured out one way or another, and then once he figured that out, he's kind of like, okay, certain things that Takemichi's able to do, him knowing things, being able to arrive at certain points, even though he technically shouldn't have the necessary information to figure those things out, gives credence to the idea that he may be a time leaper. Because I imagine the other time leaper probably has like some sort of future sense, and obviously has been to multiple futures and stuff, likely. So they probably also can perform certain feats that Takemichi can complete, even though like someone like a Kakucho probably wouldn't be able to do those same things. Even though considerably you may say, oh well, Kakucho would be more in the position to find something out about, like in this situation, Kakucho's plan, and is strong enough to also be able to act upon it in a similar way that Takemichi can, but he wouldn't be able to because he just wouldn't know that information, yet Takemichi does. And that's pretty much the main thing I want to discuss for the chapter. I mean, there's still we really don't know about the status for Kakucho. I mean, Kakucho's doing a lot of stuff for somebody who's injured, so he really very well might just not have gotten cut that hard by Sanzu. So that is something to be considered. Sanzu also follows train, so he'll probably show up in the fight later. Conceptually, he could move another train if there are other trains there, but maybe the author's just keeping it to a one train kind of train station, train yard situation, perhaps. But we'll see what's going to happen. I think for sure the train in and of itself is going to be stopped by Takemichi and Kikucho. Is Kikucho going to get out of this fight alive? I don't know. Maybe. But heavy on the maybe, because it really could go either way. And outside of that, I think everything else is relatively self-explanatory. I guess it's kind of weird that Sanzu dedicated his life to Mikey in that way, but it's kind of been implied that that's pretty much been the case. So though we got to see exactly when it happened, I suppose, you know, that doesn't really give us the full backstory that we're looking for Sanzu. So for right now, I think that is it for the chapter. If you like the video, leave a like. If you dislike the video, leave a dislike. Comment. What do you think is going, who do you think the other time leaper is? Could it be Sanzu? Could it still be Hanma? Or is this another wild card? Is Kikucho going to die? I'm not even about asking about the train being stopped. I feel like that would be such a, not even a cop-out, but that would be such a awkward situation to end the story off on, which is that Takemichi doesn't stop the train, everybody gets run over, and that's just the end of it. Everybody's dead, goodbye. That'd be a horrible situation to end up in. So I'm not gonna bother asking about that. And, you know, leave those things in the comments, like I said. And if you feel generous and you like my channel, you like my voice, think I'm a cool guy, I continue doing content like this and other manga stuff. Occasionally I upload a short, occasionally do a live stream or whatever. Feel free to check out the rest of my channel and subscribe. You should do that. Anyway, with that all being said, the doc is out. Peace.